here with my sidekick, Dobby, and it is a little bit into August now, which means I am late for my July wrap-up. Alright, I had a little bit more success this month in terms of reading. Actually, I had a lot more success this month in terms of reading. I still didn't do great on videos, but I'm working on it. Part of that reason is because I read a lot of ARCs this month and like older books that I just audiobooked, so I didn't really have anything to post. But I've been working on making sure I record my thoughts from the books I've been reading. Some of them I've done a better job than others, and I'm hoping to film a whole bunch of videos in the next couple weeks. Some to be released quickly and others to be released when the book comes out. But anyway, let's dive into the 10 books I finished in July. So I started July towards the end of Aripper in the Gates by Saba Tahir. This is the third book in the Ember and the Ashes series. There is one more coming out in a long time. This one took, I think, over 2 years to come out, or about 2 years to come out. It took a long time. And last I heard from Saba Tahir, she had like maybe started drafting the fourth one. Maybe. Last I actually heard from her, she hadn't started yet. So it's going to be a long wait. I'm not going to talk too much about this except to say that it's signed and there's a water stain on the cover. Do you see this? That actually happened the day before I was getting it signed. I was so sad. It's because it was in my bag because this book was coming with me everywhere while I was reading it. And one of those places was to take kids to a pool. And then there was like a wet towel in the bag and I thought I had it separated and safe, but it got wet. It's not super noticeable, is it? Anyway, it's signed. I guess I can like buy another copy and replace the cover because it's just that. The rest of it is fine. I don't know. If you don't know, the series is about, what is the first book about? Oh my goodness, it's been a long time. I don't even know. There's a lot. I'm terrible. I believe I did a Fandom Feels with Kate and Natasha for book 1, which I will link below, and I do have a book talk for book 2. I did not do a book talk for this one because I am terrible, and I should have, but I didn't take notes while I was reading it, and now it's been too long since I finished it. It's been over a month. So I don't know if I would be able to do a very good book talk for this. I know I wouldn't be able to do a very good book talk for this, so I failed here. Yeah, I didn't like it as much as the first two. I gave it 4 stars, and I'd given the first 2 in the series 5 stars, so it's definitely a little weaker, which is disappointing because I waited 2 years for it. But it's still enjoyable. I'm still really excited to see where it goes from here. I think part of the issue was, as you know if you watch any of my videos, I live for romance in books, and that was sort of lacking a bit in this one. But that's what really pulls me into the story. Like, I love intense action scenes and people trying to save the world, which is happening in this a lot. But what really gets me invested in a story is the romance. And that was lacking in this one, and the romance that had really pulled me into the first 2 in particular was what was lacking, and even those characters kind of weren't entertaining me as much, so that was upsetting. There was another love story in this one, which also still wasn't quite what I was hoping for. So it was the romance in here that was lacking, but like, this isn't supposed to be a romance story, so I understand that's not fair. But like, it's 4 stars is still good. It's just, that's what kept it from the 5. I also started July listening to the audiobook for Fallen by Lauren Kate. This is the first in the Fallen series by Lauren Kate. It is about a girl. Some stuff has gone down in her life, but she ends up like kicked out of her old school and going to a new school for delinquents, basically. And there she meets a lot of people, one of which is a boy named Daniel, who she is just drawn to and can't even explain it because he's actually kind of mean to her, but she just can't stop thinking about him and looking at him and wanting to be with him. And it turns out he's a fallen angel, and she has had like hundreds of lives, and in every single one she is drawn to him, and they are destined to be together, and they have a very tragic history every single time. I read a lot of those in the past month, but that was the first one that I had started in June and I finished in July. Alright, next up I do not have my copy of because my friend is borrowing it, but again, if you've been following me at all, you know that when I was at my signing for Aripper in the Gates, Saba Tahir gave me a copy of Wildcard by Marie Lu, which is the second book in the Warcross duology. I was so excited for that book. I love the first book so much, so much, so much. Have I mentioned so much? The book comes out, I believe, in September, and I did write down my notes for this one, and I will definitely do a video for it because I'm so excited to talk about this one. I'm so excited for everybody to read it. I'm going to tell you what the first book is about because anything I say about the second one will be a spoiler. I got an ARC for the first one too, so I haven't had to pay for either of these books, and now I feel kind of bad. But I've gotten other people to read them, and they've paid for them, so I've still gotten Marie Lu money, right? The first book, actually, you can watch my book talk for it. I have a big book talk for the first one, and I will have a book talk for the second one, but real quick, it's about a girl named Emeka who has had a tragic start to her life as well, and she decides to hack into these world-famous games in order to get some money, and she ends up showing her identity to the world and being hired by the person that runs like the entire internet, basically, because she's such an amazing hacker and he needs help tracking somebody down. And that's all I'm going to say. There's romance, there's action, there's mystery, there's betrayal. It's wonderful. It is wonderful. I love it so much. Second book, also absolutely wonderful. Twists, turns, my mind was blown. I couldn't believe what was happening. I gave it 5 stars. I gave both of these books 5 stars, I believe. They're phenomenal. Read them now. Well, you can't read the second one yet because it comes out next month, but read it when it comes out and read the first one now, okay? Go do that. No, finish this video first. Watch my other review, maybe the beginning of it, and then go do that. Next, I audiobooked book 2 in the Fallen series by Lauren Kate, Torment. I also gave this one 4 stars. I'm not really going to go into it because if you haven't read the first one, I'm not going to talk about the second one. But let's just say the story continues. Next up, I read What to Say Next by Julie Boxpin. This is the author of Tell Me 3 Things, which I loved. It was adorable. This one I gave 4 stars. I was hoping to do a video for it, but I didn't get my notes down quick enough, and I don't know if I'd be able to do it justice now. But this book follows 2 characters. One is a girl whose father recently died in a car accident, and she kind of doesn't know what to do with herself anymore because she doesn't want to hang out with her old friends. It's kind of blown her life around, and she doesn't know how to be herself anymore, really. And it also follows a boy who has autism, and it's really cool being inside his head, just seeing it from his point of view, because he knows what's going on in his head and why he's doing the things he's doing, even if nobody else does. And he also recognizes that some of it might be seen as not normal or wrong, but it's who he is. And he has an amazing sister who supports him completely and actually creates a book for him with kind of like the do's and don'ts of social interaction, I guess. But anyway, he has noticed the girl forever, but never been willing to really talk to her. And she decides one day she doesn't want to deal with her friends, so she's going to sit down at his table because he always sits alone at lunch. And they develop a friendship, and maybe more. And I loved it. I loved getting the peek inside the head of a voice we don't normally hear from. especially, there's one point that I'm not going to get into because it's a major spoiler, but there's one point where he just has the complete wrong reaction to something, but you understand why he had it, but you also understand why, like, it's not okay that he had that reaction. And it's just fascinating, and I really did like this book. Again, I gave it 4 stars, but I liked it more for the things it taught me than for the actual story, I guess. Next, I read That's Not What Happened by Cody Keplinger. This is the author of The Duff, which I love a lot. This is an arc. The book comes out at the end of this month, so I'm hoping to record a video soon and have that, because I started to take notes. I thought I had taken more notes on this than I actually did by the time I sat down to look at my old notes, but I think I remember enough of it to get a decent review out, especially because I love this book. I gave it 5 stars. It was different. It's a lot. I cried a lot reading this book. 3 years ago, there was a school shooting at the school, and 6 people that actually witnessed the shooting firsthand, like were actually there watching people get shot and seeing the shooter, survived. 5 of the 6 of them formed a very deep friendship and have been best friends for the past 3 years. As the ones that were freshmen when the shooting occurred are getting ready to graduate, the main character decides it is finally time to tell the truth about what happened with her best friend, because her story had been blown out of proportion. She didn't understand where the story came from, but her best friend had basically become a savior for Christianity when the stories that apparently happened that day didn't really happen the way they were. So she sets out to tell the truth and right these wrongs. Meanwhile, we find out that everybody kind of has a what really happened story to go with it. So she's telling her story, meanwhile she's getting notes from the other people involved, and all of these things are coming out, and I sobbed hearing all of their stories. And I just can't say enough how much I love this book. And I really liked Cody Keplinger. I think it'll probably be in the real one too, but there's a note from her saying why she wrote this and how it's actually based on research she did about Columbine specifically, and other school shootings as well, but mostly Columbine. Similarly, there are all of these rumors that came out at Columbine about what people said or did in the moment, and some of them turned out to be false, but by the time the story came out that they were false, it was too late. The story had already spread too wide, and it was hard to get out the word of what really happened. So that's what inspired her to write this. I really love this book. I'm so excited for everybody to read it, and just have tissues near you, because I cried a lot. There were a lot of tears. A lot. Read this though, it was really good. Next was the audiobook To Passion, book 3 of the Fallen series by Lauren Kate. I also gave this one 4 stars. Again, not going to get into it too much because spoilers, but it was a continuation. Next, I read Smoke in the Sun by Renee Ahdieh. I've had this since 2 days after it came out, I think, whenever she was in the DC area, following the release of this book. I hadn't read it yet, which I felt bad about. I didn't absolutely love the first book in this duology, but I enjoyed it. It was kind of like a Mulan. Same here. I enjoyed it. It took me a little bit of time to get into. I gave it 4 stars. I'm very impressed with the conclusion of this book, although I do still have a lot of questions that I need answered. And Renee Ahdieh, are you writing more? Are you like gonna do an extra epilogue or something? Because not everything was answered in this. Anyway, once again, I failed at taking notes immediately, and therefore I'm not going to be able to do a video for this because I suck. But I read it. I will say the character arcs were perfect in this. So even though I do still have a lot of questions about the overall plot and where it's going and what's happening, the character arcs were pretty much flawless. Yeah. Then I listened to the audiobook for Fallen in Love, which is like between books 3 and 4 in the Fallen series. It just follows 3 different characters in their own little love stories, separate from the main one. The final book I finished in July, and this was my first book in BookTube-A-Thon. I will link both my introduction for a BookTube-A-Thon video and my BookTube-A-Thon vlog below. But my first book for BookTube-A-Thon and my last book I finished in July was What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. I love this book. I had so much fun reading this. It's interesting because I'd only read one Adam Silvera book before, but I knew that he was not known for happy endings. He was known for more sad or bittersweet endings, but Becky Albertalli is known for happy endings. So I got like 3/4 of the way through this book before I started thinking wait a second, how is this going to end? Because they are not known for having similar endings. And I was terrified. I'm obviously not going to get into that. This is an arc, and it comes out in October, and I still need to write down my thoughts, but I really need to because I'm going to do reviews for this because I absolutely adored it. Absolutely adored it. If you don't know, it is about 2 boys who have a meet cute at a post office. One of them has just broken up with his first boyfriend. The other is in New York for the summer and has never had a boyfriend before. And almost as soon as they meet, they get separated and don't know how to find each other, but both of them are searching for the other. And there's a little bit of a just one day feel at the beginning, but then it goes somewhere else from there. And I love this book. I really love this book. Literally, I cut out half of the times in my BookTube-A-Thon vlog where I was just sitting there saying, I love this book, I love this book, I love this book. I love this book. Everybody needs to read it as soon as it comes out, which is October. Sorry! But I read it and it's good. And I gave it 5 stars, obviously. Okay, as I said, that is the last book I finished in July, but I have a book and an audiobook I started in July. I started the 4th audiobook in the Fallen series, Rapture, by Lauren Kate. Again, continuation of where it is so far. I'm a little confused. So the 4th one had a full-out conclusion, and I was confused because I knew there was a 5th one, but the 5th one seems to follow somebody else. So I don't know if it's really a 5th one or if it's more like a companion sequel thing. I don't know. I'll read it eventually. I needed to take a break from it, but now I'm in August, so what am I talking about? The other book that I started at the very, very end of July, like Harry Potter's birthday, was The Darkest Legacy by Alexandra Bracken. This came out on July 31st, and I started it on July 31st. This is the surprise continuation of the Darkest Mind series. The first movie is now in theaters. Everybody needs to go watch it and support it because you need to support young adult book to movie adaptations, okay? Sorry. Anyway, I read this. I'm not really going to get into it because I will talk more about it in my August wrap-up because that's when I really read it, and I do plan to do a video for it, although I've been saying that a lot. I have a lot of videos to film, guys. Yeah, I'll talk more about it in August because I barely started it in July. Oh, I will say, if you've read The Darkest Minds, which you have to do before you read this, because anything in here is a spoiler for that series, this one does not follow Ruby like the other ones do. This one follows Zoo, who is in the trilogy and a pretty big part of the trilogy, but not the main character in the trilogy. And this one follows her. It takes place 5 years later, and it might have been the best one in the series. Go read it now. That is it for July. I have already read several books in August because I was doing BookTube-A-Thon, and I'm hoping that I can keep up this momentum going forward and be reading more. And I do plan to do a bunch of videos and get them posted, some soon, some in a while, but that's my plan. Anyway, I will talk to you next time. If you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, follow me on Twitter at ReaderGonnaRead, and subscribe by clicking down below or up there. I have links to a bunch of videos down below, and I have some cards up for others. And I will talk to you next time. Bye! Hey, Ellie and Dobby here. Like the video? Come subscribe. Do it right now. Click it.